Hi. I kind of forgot what I was going to talk about in the last video, so I'm going to talk about it in this video. It was about what was in the case with St. Vincent's. I was talking about something, and I was going to change the subject. We were talking about Erica Sears, what St. Vincent's did, okay, in the case. Okay. Okay, Judge Mary Jane Nisley, her case had this Erica Sears in it, who was going to do the incapacity report, even though it was illegal to take somebody without an incapacity report, especially when the person had family. Okay, Holly put that she had no family and that she was being severely abused. Even though there was no police report or any incident that ever occurred, Holly was saying that, you know, she was being abused at the YMCA, even though there was no nature of any abuse. I mean, it sounded all warm and fuzzy and everything, and my daughter is a much bigger woman than I am. Okay, what it is, what they were really guilty of is we had this other doctor, Dr. Artudo or something at St. Vincent's, and we were going to do one of those tests. I don't know, it's an EEG or something, where they stick paste on a person's head and you go to sleep, and they do a test to see, you know, if a person has seizures. Okay, Marion's had this test in Florida, in Minnesota, and in several states that we've lived in. She had it also in South Dakota. Oh, in 3 different states. And when I went there, there was a woman that flew in from Texas. And she brought me into her room, and she says, look, I want to inject your daughter with something that will give her seizures, because we want to see the duration of the seizure to see how long the seizure will last. Will you sign a piece of paper that if she gets severe brain damage from this, or we're not able to stop the seizures, that you will not sue the hospital? So I says, absolutely not. I says, I can't allow you to do that. And I didn't even know that you can ask somebody's permission to do that to another person. Okay, this is how corrupt these 2 clinics are, the Billings Clinic and St. Vincent's. Okay, she got very perturbed with me that I wouldn't. She fought with me and held me in her office for over 45 minutes telling me how she really needed this test. And I really think that Holly Boyson set up an adult protective service, had somebody fly in from Texas. Okay, what they were going to do, they thought that I would sign the paper, that they would manipulate me to sign the paper, but she could have talked to me they could have held me there for 3 days, and I wouldn't have signed that paper. They could have held me there forever, and I would have never signed that paper. Okay, and what they were going to do was they were going to induce seizures that was not going to be able to be stopped. Okay. It was going to cause severe brain damage. She was going to become the incapacity person that they wanted her to become, and then they were going to blame me. Then they would also get lots of money if they could operate on her brain. Okay. After nearly an hour of fighting with me, because they were running out of time, okay, they decided to do the test without injecting her with ever garbage. But they had somebody fly in from another state, okay, that was going to go back to Texas, that I was never going to see again. Okay, they don't do stuff like that. In the state that we're in, they don't do stuff like that. Okay, they only do this in Montana. Okay, I saw at Family Services one day when we were in there shopping and we were getting some clothing, I saw a boy come in there that was under some job coach that had a big scar across his forehead. And he was under guardianship and taken away from his family. And I know that they cut inside his brain to make him a vegetable, and that his family could never see him. His family didn't have any say on the matter, and they did that so that they could get a Social Security check. I saw it with my own eyes. And I didn't know what it was that I saw at the time, because it was before this happened. But I will never forget looking at that. That kid was in his young 20s. As absolutely horrible. Okay. We had this doctor at St. Vincent's named Dr. Schulke. He was a new doctor that came in, and they told me that I could get appointments with him real fast, and he didn't have a heavy clientele. When I went to see him, In the beginning, everything was nice. He thought I was great. He thought my kids were great. He thought I was a wonderful mother and everything. As I was going back, I didn't like this guy. Okay, he became very egotistical. He had his head stretched up. I didn't like his behavior. He started copying an attitude. Now, I don't know if they were calling him because his whole personality changed. Okay, Dr. Schulke is a low-life scumbag. Okay, he was not a member of Illuminati or any Luciferian. He'd have pictures of his wife and his children, smiling and everything. Just because somebody has a picture of their wife and they're smiling and they got nice kids, that doesn't make that person a good person. And just because a person went to college and they became a doctor, that doesn't make that person a good person. Okay, after my daughter was taken by these people, okay, I went and I called Dr. Schulke, and I went in there to try to see him. He wouldn't answer the phone. He wouldn't call me back. He wasn't allowed to talk to me. Why, there's not two sides to a story? Treated me like shit. They took her out of your care. Who the hell are they? Okay? She's an adult. Okay? I wrote him a letter, and I told him that Lori... I didn't tell him that Lori, but I told him that Holly had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, that she was very, very dangerous, and that she didn't need to be caring for my daughter. Dr. Schulke, because I wrote him a letter and I fired him from my son, and I told him that he could no longer be my doctor, and that we weren't going to go back and see him anymore, he's a vicious, vindictive bastard, without even a court order. And this is a felony. This is criminal defamation, and this is where I can get $250 million for these 3 incidents from St. Vincent's. The thing with Erica Sears, the thing with Artudo, and the thing with Dr. Schulke. Dr. Schulke wrote a letter to the judge when it wasn't even court ordered, okay, because Erica Sears would not write the letter, okay, so they used Schulke, okay. He wrote a letter to Ingrid Gufferson that he had evaluated Marion on several occasions. He's an MD. He's not a psychiatrist, okay? And psychologists are not real doctors, okay? They're not allowed to prescribe medicine. Like Dr. Boots was trying to prescribe something for me, okay? He loses license for even making a recommendation, okay, on any kind of medication. They're not even allowed to prescribe acid reflux pills. They're not even allowed to give you an aspirin. A nurse can give you an aspirin, but a psychologist can't. Okay, and they're in school, you have to go to the nurse to get an aspirin. A teacher can't do it. Okay, they could go to jail for that. Okay, wrote a letter that Marion had an unidentified disability. So she's got an unidentified disability, he doesn't know what it is, and that she had an unidentified seizure disorder. Okay, he's not even her doctor, he doesn't even know anything about it. He prescribed her Topamax. Okay, Topamax is better known as a sarcastic Dopamax, which makes you incredibly stupid, what makes a person cognitively an idiot. I took it once for headaches, and I couldn't deal with it because I was on my computer and I couldn't remember what the letter K looked like. I forgot how to, I knew how to spell like, L-I-K-E, but I couldn't remember what K looked like. And I forgot how to turn on my computer, and I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm done. And that's what Dopamax or Topamax does. Okay. He also prescribed something like Oxycontin. Okay. When my daughter hurt her neck on the trampoline, she pulled a muscle on her neck. And from what I understand, Phyllis Russell and Rose had to keep my daughter up all night because they thought she was going to die. Okay? When my daughter was at Phyllis Russell's house, she received a terrible fungus on her feet. Okay? And he prescribed some sort of a horrible, horrible drug, which he had her on for months. And I called and I tried to take him. I read horrible side effects, that it hurts the liver, that it hurts the kidney, that it gives you urinary tract infections and everything. These social workers, they know what they're doing. Okay? And I kept saying, prescriber creams, prescriber cream. I finally brought some foot cream that I bought at the drugstore over the counter with Barbara Sample. And she allowed me to give it to her, and she brought it back to the house, and Phyllis Russell apparently used it on her feet. And it was cleared up in the next week that I saw her. Okay, and then Lori said, she's cured. You know, she's cured. You know, it went away. I took her back to the doctor. She's not on the medicine anymore. You know, but Dr. Schulke did not cure her. He was giving her stuff that was lethal and dangerous. He gave her Topamax when he knew she had gotten kidney stones from it. Okay, and he knew he's not a seizure doctor. And Artudo knew that she wasn't supposed to be on that. Okay. He gave her something that was like, I don't know what drug it was, but it was a drug that was lethal, kind of like Oxycontin. I don't know if that was the exact drug. And he also gave her that horrible stuff for her feet. Okay, let's finish his note to the judge. He said that he understood that Marion was going to have a hearing for guardianship. And he said that she should be granted guardianship, you know, like it was a gift or something. And that he also put in his report that that she needed money management. So I guess they must have told him that, you know, they needed her money. And, you know, that I shouldn't, you know, let her have her money because, you know, with me, she's going to have a Nook, a cell phone, a laptop, a PlayStation, a Wii, you know, a flat screen TV, you know, jewelry, a Zsa Zsa diamond ring that I bought her when I won the lottery, a 3-carat diamond ring and 14-carat platinum gold and stuff. You know, they want all this stuff. You know, they're going to buy her coloring books. They bought her coloring books and a rubber ducky. They wanted her to play rubber ducky. And a 29-year-old woman, there's something wrong with Holly. Okay? I mean, one time I got a phone call from her. She wanted to know if she used tampons or Kotex. I said, excuse me? I said, so I just said Kotex because I was afraid she was going to put it in for her. So I says, why are you asking me this? So we know what to buy for her. Doesn't she go to Walmart and buy that herself? She's 29 years old. You're going to buy that for her? I mean, what is she, 12? And she got it for the first time? You know, I mean, she buys that herself. And so anyway, she should be granted guardianship and money management. So in other words, she's never going to be allowed to own money. And that she should have 24-hour-a-day supervision. And the last line was for the duration of her life. With no possibility of parole or ever getting out. No visiting. People in jail aren't treated like terrorists. They go in, they sit down, they have visits. They don't have some wacko, some schizophrenic, bipolar maniac sitting there writing down everything you say and telling you, taking away your First Amendment right to ask the person, you know, how they're doing. Okay? Even in jail, people have a certain time where they could go to the phone and call their families. But Marion wasn't allowed to call her family. Okay? She wasn't allowed any phone calls. And in jail, you're allowed to write. But Marion wasn't allowed to write. And she wrote me several letters because Phyllis let her do that. And I gave all those letters to Brandon Hartford, and he hid every single one of them. Okay? I gave him a letter from my aunt that knows me since my daughter was born. That was a wonderful letter. I gave him a letter from Special Olympics, where they made me like a caregiver or something there, you know, established me. I forget the name of what it was. Anything that favored me on the case. And the only reason why I did the in-camera view is because Terry Seifer and Gillen and the judge was pressuring him to come in for a hearing. And he didn't want to do a hearing. I paid him $3,000. And he was going to let this case expire. And after it expired, and even if it was closed with prejudice, they weren't going to give her back. They were going to take her somewhere because Kathleen, the one that came over from Aware, she had her on a list to go to a place in Bozeman. And she was going to disappear. Okay? As far as the Illuminati goes, or whatever the secret society is, there's a lot of them. I mean, it's not Skull and Bones. I don't know which one they have, but they have these underground meetings somewhere in Montana, in Helena, out in the outskirts. They're in different locations where these people do meet, okay? Where they have orgies, where they wear black sheets. Holly wears a mask, and she's been fucked to madness, and so has Lori. Lori is married to a Japanese guy that she met over in Hawaii, that she brought back to the state, and who is just in it for the money. He's just as guilty as she is. He doesn't give a shit about anybody. I don't know. She's took a month back to Hawaii when this case closed. I don't know if she's been to Australia and New Zealand or where she's been. But basically, it's on your mom and dad's money. They work their whole lives, and a bank calls that he mismanaged his money, and Holly gets the rest of his bank account and becomes his guardian, and his daughter moves into the house to take care of them. Yeah, I bet Holly got that house. I bet Rita Finch didn't get anything. Okay, Holly has sold her soul to the devil. She used to work for Children and Family Services, and she was so horrible that they got rid of her. I pulled her up on the internet on Los Angeles for a while. I don't know what she was doing, anything. She doesn't even have a Facebook. It doesn't show whether she was married or not. I hear there's possibility of marriage. But anyway, what I want to say is, if there's anybody in Montana that wants to testify against Brenda Rauch, Kevin Gillen, Dr. Boots, Holly Boyson, Julia Howard, Lori Peterson Yamamoto, and don't call Lori Peterson Yamamoto for help if you're having trouble with a social worker. She's worse than all of them. If it's even possible to be worse than Holly. She's worse. As bad as Holly is, and she's the rottenest woman that I ever met, Lori Peterson Yamamoto is nothing but a passive aggressive. Okay, that's what she is. Okay, she's vicious. Okay, she's lying and faking good. She's a good actress. She has murdered so many people. She tortures people to death. She believes in long-term punishment, and she doesn't give a damn about anybody, and they don't do reunification. And if they ever tell you that they did reunification on this case, they didn't. They lost. Because the judge terminated their guardianship and closed this case with prejudice. And as far as the Billings clinics go, there's 3 people there that need to go to prison. Dr. Montville, Diane Akava, and John Swanson's nurse, the one that made the call 3 days before this happened. Okay, Dr. Montville does in vitro and artificial insemination for a living. He broke the HIP law. When Marion went there to see him for an infertility clinic, we went there, and he basically set us up with that vicious witch, Diana Cava, okay? And I tried to go back to see her, to talk to her during the case. And basically she called security on me and was doing a trespass warning on me because she didn't have the guts to face me, okay? Okay, he set me up and my daughter with Diane Akava, and it is not against the law for somebody that is getting a little SSI because they have a speech problem, they have a communication problem, and because she has a problem with communication, she's intelligent, and basically because they're racist. Because my daughter is Polynesian, okay? Marianne is Hawaiian Chinese on her father's side. Although he says he's German, he's full of shit, okay? It's a long story. That's not even important. But the thing is that what Montville did And to make a comment that the Octomom's doctor lost his license, well, it's not against the law what he did, and I don't know if he lost his license or not, but she's living happily ever after with 14 kids, and he should have been given a medal for what he did. Dr. Monfil and Diana Cava, because they're all over the courts, they belong in prison. And that nurse, I mean, basically, it's horrible. Okay? Diana Cava, because I told her that we were using the Northwest Cryobank, that Marion I had purchased some vials for Marion. They were top quality donors. They were Scandinavian. There was only 2 of them. And because of Diana Cava, those vials were destroyed and a child was never born. She stopped a life from coming into this world, and I lost thousands of dollars, okay, because of Diana Cava. And she told Holly, and Holly called that sperm bank. That sperm bank does not require a doctor's authorization, and for some reason I was getting calls that I needed to go to a doctor, and because the vials were not vials, they were straws, and they didn't appear to be good. She was going to trade them out for a different donor, and then she decided not to do that, and I got into an awful fight with the woman, Tammy, and Holly somehow managed to get this woman on her side. I don't know why everyone listens to Holly. Okay, Holly would call people up and say, my name is Holly Boyson, and I work for Adult Protective Service, and I'm investigating Jennifer Rawson for abuse and neglect. So right there, people would think, and she's so full of shit. And the last thing that she would tell people is, and don't tell her them, oh, well, you don't have to worry about me. I won't say a word. If Holly Boyson or anybody in Billings, Montana calls you from Adult Protective Service and drops a name, get in touch with that person right away and warn that person. Because basically these women belong in jail. And the police officer that was her buddy, his name is Hagman. He's a giant. He's like 6'3". I wonder if he's a Mason. I'm pretty sure he's not in the Illuminati. He doesn't look like a murderer. But he's probably a Mason, and that's just as bad. If he's a Mason, then he's just another fucking scumbag. So, I don't know. But anyway, one of the things that she did was on a visit one day. I was waiting, and I got there early, and she pulled in her car. And I noticed that her plate was obstructed. I got out of my car, and I went to look at it, and I wrote down her license plate because it appeared to look like a car that was still following me. And her and this Mike Norberry ran out and started screaming and yelling at me with her fucking cell phone, video cameraing it and taking pictures. And I'm not supposed to be doing that. It's a free parking lot. I could look at a car and screaming, don't touch my car. Yeah, your brand new car that you got with my daughter's money. Okay? And I don't know if it was used or how old it was, but it was something that she didn't have before, and that she was using my daughter's check for it. Okay? And for her car payments. Well, she's got a lot of nerve, because how many checks do they need down there for their drug habits and their gambling and their vacations in Hawaii? Well, I guess Holly doesn't go to New Zealand or Australia, not yet anyway. But, Lori's retiring soon, and she should be going to prison. Her and Barbara Sample and that Brenda Rauch. So the only thing is, they were trying to get everybody to testify against me. They said Special Olympics was going to testify against me. Why? What did we do at Special Olympics? They played basketball. I drove them and I picked them up. It started out really well. Then she came to the house. We found out that I was there, and then she made 1 million phone calls there. I took them to, they signed up for school at the Lincoln Center. Everything was okay there, too. And then she started calling that wacko. Oh, she was a horrible teacher. Her name was Chris in the English and math class. I guess it was a GED class, but you could also take English and math. got them kicked out of there. And Lori was was writing up papers how Marion was going to be in a day program for the duration of her life, and Shelby thought it was so wonderful. Wow, she was going to go to the workshop. They tell everybody that they pay those people minimum wage. The people that work for the government get minimum wage. They get piecework. They work 80 hours. They get checks for $12, $15 for 80 hours. The disabled people that work there. And anyway, Special Olympics, everybody's got Down syndrome. They got like 44 IQs, which is the lowest that you're allowed to give on a psychological evaluation. And Brenda Rauch is writing up papers that she's going to evaluate my son when there wasn't even a case on him. And that she wanted to get this Laurel Wentfield's evaluation and give it to Ingrid Gustafson. And they were going to have this big trial, and they were all going to come and put a rope around my neck. But Ingrid Gustafson wouldn't do it. So they're all angry with Ingrid. They want Ingrid to be one of them. I know she'll never join the Illuminati, but I hope she never gets brainwashed into their BS. Because when they speak, they lie. Okay? And the only sex abuse in this case was done by Julia Howard, Lori Peterson Yadamoda, Donna Henderson, Mike Norberry, and Holly Boyson. They're a bunch of perverts. And I never heard of taking somebody to court and forcing them to take birth control and telling them that they can't have children and wanting to give them 65 years and having a doctor agree to it. And this Julia Howard, she's the most disgusting, dirtiest thing that I've ever seen. And they come with smiles on their faces. And you know, Brenda Rauch, when I first went to see her the first time, well, I had to take this test with this rotten blonde woman that was from Wolf Point that knew Holly. And when I first went to see Brenda, she followed me to my house. She comes to my house, she says, well, I don't understand why they didn't take him too. What do they need to take Wade for? You know? And she did something else. What else did she do? Here I go again. It's too intense.